They agreed, they swore, they promised to never be seen together again, yet last night something happened that no one expected, something that shattered every promise and every silent boundary they set. Lu and Dylan Wang were spotted in the same hotel at the same time, and what witnesses claim to have seen will shake everything we thought we knew about them. Stay with us till the very end. And hit subscribe now, because the truth behind this encounter is more dramatic, more emotional, and more shocking than anyone imagined. No one saw it coming, not after everything that had happened between them, not after the heartbreaks, the rumors, the silent tensions and the unspoken secrets. Lu and Dylan Wang were supposed to be done, finished, distant like two stars forced into opposite skies so they would never collide again. They had promised each other and the world that they would keep a distance, that their paths would no longer cross except where contracts demanded and cameras insisted. And for a long time, it seemed like that promise held. Red carpet events saw them standing on opposite ends. Award shows placed them away from each other deliberately. Directors whispered careful warnings. Fans sensed a strange quiet between them that felt colder than winter wind. But then came last night. The city lights glowed under a misty midnight sky, and a luxury hotel sat silently in the heart of it like a jewel polished by years of secrets. It was a place well known for hosting stars, influencers, and industry royalty, but last night the walls of that building hid something no one was supposed to see. At about 11:30, a sleek black car rolled up to the side entrance. Lu stepped out quietly, her hair tucked under a cap, jacket pulled close to her body as she tried to hide from passing glances. She moved quickly, head down, eyes forward, disappearing through a private elevator door that closed behind her with barely a whisper. No one thought much of it. Until another car arrived 20 minutes later. This time it was Dylan Wang. Dressed in dark clothes, hood low, his face almost invisible beneath shadows, yet unmistakable to those who recognized the shape of his walk, the curve of his jaw, the quiet confidence in every step. He paused at the door as if hesitating, as if questioning whether he was crossing a line he had promised never to cross again. But hesitation faded. He slipped inside the same door Lu had entered. Hotel staff traded glances. Some froze. Others gasped quietly. Everyone knew their history. Everyone remembered their promise. Yet here they were, both under the same roof. Upstairs, the hotel corridors were silent. A thick carpet muffled every footstep. The elevator doors opened on the 7th floor, and Dylan stepped out, glancing up and down the hallway as though he knew he was not supposed to be there. Room 726 was where Lu stood, leaning against the wall, her fingers twisting restlessly as she waited. When she heard footsteps coming closer, her heart began pounding so loudly she could almost hear it echo through the corridor. Then she saw him. Dylan stopped a few feet away, his eyes locking onto hers. Neither spoke at first. The silence crackled with 1,000 unsaid words. "You came," Lu whispered softly. Dylan nodded slowly. "I should not have. We said we would not." Lu looked down. "I know, but I had to see you. One last time." Those 5 words hit harder than any argument or confession ever could. One last time. They carried weight, history, heartbreak, and longing. Dylan stepped closer. His voice dropped low. "You did not have to call me." Lu swallowed hard. "I did not call you. You called me." Dylan blinked, stunned. That meant fate, coincidence, or something deeper had drawn them there. Before either could unpack it, Lu opened the door and motioned him inside. The room was simple and warm, dimly lit by a lamp near the window. Curtains closed tightly, isolating them from the city below. For a moment they simply stood there, two people who had once been so close yet now felt like strangers carrying memories on their backs. Dylan spoke first. "Why here? Why now?" Lu took a breath. "Because I am tired of pretending we are fine apart. Because no matter how far we stand from each other, something keeps pulling us back." Dylan shook his head slowly, running a hand through his hair. "This is dangerous. If anyone finds out, it starts all over again. The rumors, the fights, the scripts rewritten, the fans divided." Lu stepped closer, her voice trembling. "Maybe we have been running from the wrong thing. Maybe we should not be afraid of what people will say. Maybe we should be afraid of what happens to us if we stay apart forever." Dylan's expression softened. He wanted to argue. He wanted to stay strong. But he had been aching too. Every time he saw her name on a screen, felt a glimpse of her smile in a behind-the-scenes clip, or heard someone mention her in conversation, something inside him twisted. I thought I could forget you, he admitted quietly. I thought I could bury what I felt. But every day something reminds me of you. Bai Lu felt her chest tighten. Then why did you promise to stay away? Because I was scared, he answered. Scared of losing everything again. Scared of watching you hurt. Scared that loving you might destroy us both. Her eyes glimmered. So we stayed apart and broke anyway. The silence that followed was filled with every tear they had refused to cry, every message they had typed but never sent, every time they stood inches apart in public pretending to be strangers while their hearts reached for each other. But fate was not done. There was a sudden knock. Both froze. Dylan stared at the door. Bai Lu's breath caught. Another knock, louder this time. Dylan whispered, "Who could that be?" Bai Lu whispered back, "Maybe housekeeping." But they both knew no housekeeping knocked twice at midnight. Dylan moved quietly toward the door, peeking through the peephole, then tensed. It was a staff member holding a tablet. And on that screen, a video was paused. A blurry camera shot from the hotel garage. It showed Dylan getting out of the car. Then Bai Lu. The staff member spoke through the door, his voice muffled. Someone recorded your arrival. The hotel is getting calls already. Bai Lu covered her mouth. Dylan closed his eyes for a second. It was happening. The leak had begun. They looked at each other, neither moving, neither speaking. We have to go, Dylan said. No, Bai Lu replied. We cannot run again. They stood together near the door, the world pressing in from the other side, decisions pounding in their chests. If we are caught, Dylan whispered, everything changes. Maybe it should, Bai Lu whispered back. Outside, more footsteps echoed through the corridor. Voices murmured. Phones buzzed. They wrapped their fingers around each other's hands for the first time in months. No cameras, no scripts, no managers, no rules. Just them. When Dylan pulled the door open, reporters and staff gasped, flashes firing like lightning, questions shouted over one another. But Bai Lu did not hide. Dylan did not look away. They walked shoulder to shoulder down that hallway, stepping into chaos together, no longer hiding, no longer running, no longer obeying a promise that broke them both. And by sunrise, the entire world would know. They had been seen. They had been caught. And nothing would ever be the same again. Panic struck the hotel hallway like a lightning storm the moment the cameras flashed. Bai Lu and Dylan froze as microphones shot forward, questions fired, and chaos erupted around them. Someone shouted her name. Someone else yelled his. Every voice fought to be louder than the last. Dylan instinctively stepped in front of Bai Lu, shielding her from the nearest lens. Security rushed forward, pushing reporters back, guiding them toward a private exit, but nothing could erase what had just happened. The promise was broken. And now the world knew. They were whisked into a side hallway, away from the chaos. The door slammed behind them and suddenly the silence felt louder than the shouting had been. Bai Lu leaned against the wall, her breath shaking, eyes wide with fear and disbelief. Dylan pressed a hand to his forehead. How did we let it get this far? But Bai Lu knew the answer even before he finished asking. Because we were tired of running, she whispered. Before either could process their own words, their phones started buzzing. Not one message. Dozens. Then hundreds. Managers. Agencies. Directors. Co-stars. Friends. Enemies. People who had no business talking to them, all demanding answers. Some messages were supportive. Some threatening. Some full of betrayal. Dylan stared at his phone screen, jaw clenched tight. She looked at hers, hands trembling. Then the first headline appeared. Bai Lu and Dylan spark secret reunion after promise to stay apart, fans shocked. 5 minutes later came the harsher one. Scandal or second chance, why were Bai Lu and Dylan together in a private hotel? The labels kept coming. Forbidden. Unprofessional. Unexpected. Romantic. Calculated. Everyone chose a side, even if the truth was still tangled between them. Dylan shut off his phone and slid down the wall until he was sitting on the floor. His voice broke slightly as he said, I thought I could handle anything but not this. Not again. Bai Lu knelt beside him. You are not alone in this, she said. Not this time. He looked up, meeting her eyes. We promised, Bai Lu. We made that promise because we said the world was too cruel. She nodded. And maybe we are tired of letting the world decide for us. He stared at her for a long moment, as though finally seeing the truth behind every guarded smile she ever wore. Then came another knock. This time, it was their managers. Both stormed inside with frantic energy. What were you thinking? Bai Lu's manager demanded. Do you understand what this looks like? Dylan's manager added. The two managers argued over each other like furious parents, throwing warnings, fears, and consequences into the air. Contracts could be cancelled. Brands could pull out. Shows could rewrite casting. Fans could turn on them. Bai Lu closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Enough, she said quietly. The room fell silent. We did not commit a crime. We did not hurt anyone. We were just talking, she said softly. We are human. Her manager stared at her, stunned at her calmness. Dylan stood and spoke too. I will take whatever blame comes. But I will not pretend I do not care anymore. When their managers left to contain the damage, Bai Lu and Dylan sat together in the quiet once more, sharing the weight of what they had unleashed. Hours passed before they dared to leave the building again. But when morning came, something unexpected happened. Instead of fading away, the story exploded. Fans started fighting online. Half defended them passionately, calling their reunion destiny. Others accused them of manipulation and deception. But then a domino effect began. Other actors stepped forward. A writer tweeted, "Let them live their lives." A co-star posted, "No one deserves to hide forever." A director said, "The problem is not them. The problem is us." And then, Shinyu posted a message that broke the internet. She wrote, "Sometimes distance breaks people. Sometimes being honest heals them. Support love in all forms." With those words, the fandom flipped. Suddenly Bai Lu and Dylan were no longer villains. They were survivors of pressure. Two people who had been crushed by expectations and finally allowed themselves to breathe. And the industry took notice. The next day, Dylan received an email from a producer who once pulled him from a project because of rumors. The subject line said, "Ready to work again." Bai Lu was called for a new script reading with a director she had always admired. Something had shifted. The storm that was supposed to destroy them instead cleared a new path. Later that week, the two met one more time, this time in a quiet cafe far from cameras and hotel lobbies. They sat across from each other, cups untouched, hearts beating in sync. Dylan looked at her and finally asked, "Do you regret it?" Bai Lu smiled faintly. "No. Do you?" He shook his head. "Not anymore." She reached across the table and placed her hand on his. "Then maybe this is just the beginning." He held her hand tighter. Not a secret beginning. A real one. They left the cafe side by side. No disguises. No separate exits. No promises of distance. And when fans spotted them, instead of hiding, Bai Lu actually waved. Dylan smiled. For once, the world did not chase. The world followed. They had spent months running away from whispers. Now they walked toward truth. Together.